Welcome back for another episode of The Umbrella Girls and the Three People. Today we're going to read Chapter 9, written and read by Mark Patrick. Don't forget to follow each episode and just hit the follow button to make sure you don't miss any of our episodes that come out every Tuesday. And you need to email us. Just send an email to markpatricklist@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy. Chapter 9. Spiders! Spiders! Anna was still screaming as the door on the ground above their heads started to close again. The girls could hear the claws above the ground, getting closer and closer to where the entrance was. But Anna was ignoring all that because she was hugging the wall in pure fear of the hundreds of spiders that were running just by her. Jojo, Sam and Kay also had their backs to the wall because part of the passageway they were now in was very narrow. But they also stayed close to the wall to get out of the way of all the spiders that were running by them, heading to the hatch. Jojo looked at them and thought they all looked weird. They looked like spiders, but they only had 4 legs. But they walked on 2 of the legs, and the other 2 legs each had a spear in them. But what they had were big, dark brown eyes with no eyelashes, so their eyes was opened continuously, and they just had hair down the middle of the bank, like a Mohican haircut. They also had strapped to their head like a tortoise shell to protect their head. But what really frightened the girls was that they just kept coming and coming, more and more of them heading towards the entrance. And when they got to the entrance, they all stopped and they all pointed their spears straight up at the opening that was getting smaller and smaller by the second. But to the girls, it was just taking too long to close. Just inches from the hatch being completely closed, what seemed like hundreds of claws were trying to pull the ground back around the hatch to make it wider so that the nighttime animals could come in to where they were all hiding. The spiders used their spears to stab at the claws that they could see. They kept stabbing and stabbing other claws and pushing the claws back. But the claws were going frantic, trying to stop the entrance from closing. But then suddenly, there was a large hissing noise, and the entrance was completely closed. It had sealed itself, but all the spiders kept looking straight ahead at the entrance. All the spears were still aimed in the same direction, as if they expected in any moment for the hatch to be ripped off from the outside and the darkness to invade. Jojo grabbed a hold of Anna's hands and then turned around and gave her a big hug, trying to calm her down. But Anna was shaken from seeing all these spiders run by her, as some were now standing straight in front of her, because the way ahead was now packed with other spiders, and Jojo could feel the fear in Anna's body. "What's wrong with her?" the head watcher asked as he looked at the state Anna was in. It was Sam who answered and told him that she had a phobia of spiders. But the watcher looked confused. "What is a spider? What are you talking about?" he asked the girls. "They are," Sam said as she pointed to all the spiders that were standing around them, inches from where they were standing. The watcher looked confused. "They are warriors. They protect us. They ensure that we are safe at all times. They are the personal army of Her Royal Highness, and it's their job to make sure outside creatures never enter here," the watcher said as he smiled at his warriors. "We need to move along now, so follow me," the head watcher said as he started to walk along the narrow space that was left between the wall and the spider warriors. The girls could feel the eyes of all these large black creatures turn slightly to focus on them as he moved along. It was as if these warriors while making sure that these intruders were friendly. And if they decided the girls were not friendly, they were ready at a moment's notice to turn around and use their weapons on the girls. Anna held on tight to Jojo as she walked and moved forward deeper into the underground cave. The old man was at the back of the girls, slowly using his arms to keep the girls moving. "It's okay, girls. Just follow the Watcher. Everything will be okay, I promise," he said. He'd been here a number of times himself, but this was the first time he'd ever seen all these warriors in real action, because most of the times when he had visited, it was daytime, and nighttime wasn't creeping behind him, trying to catch him. They walked along the tunnel for about 10 to 15 minutes. The tunnel itself was something you would expect to find dug out of the ground. It was round, with lights every few feet to light the way. It was a bit damp, but on the ground was laid a cobble-block footpath. There was also windows dug out into the walls every 10 feet, with a guard sitting there, staring out. The first time they came across a window, Anna got a shock when she saw the spider warrior sitting there behind the window. "Oh my God, they're in the walls as well," Anna cried as she held Jojo's hand even tighter. Who lives in a place like this? And how come one moment, when fields and butterflies with 5 wings and birds that hop from tree to tree, and then suddenly this blackness of pure claws and these warriors? Sam asked to no one in particular. Jojo looked back at the old man, and she could tell that he didn't like being here either. And compared to when he was full of bravery when he met the girls, she could tell he was very uneasy in this new environment. Then, all of a sudden, they turned the corner and everything changed. In front of them now was the most magnificent castle you have ever seen. But it was as if you were no longer underground, because there was a sky above the castle and what seemed like fields all around it. The girls just stood there in amazement and disbelief in what they were seeing. "What just happened?" Jojo asked as she kept staring at the magnificent castle in front of them. "I thought we were underground," Kay asked as she looked up at the sky and then turned around to see back into the tunnel, still confused. "This is the home of Her Royal Highness," the Watcher said proudly, as if he had built the castle himself. "And you were all very lucky to be allowed not just to see it, but to enter it," he added. "But are we outside again?" Sam asked. "No, we are still underground," the old man explained. "But if we are underground, how come there's a sky?" Jojo asked, confused. "This is one of the secrets of Veneta. Not everything is as it seems, and sometimes it is as it seems," the old man tried to explain. Anna just looked at him. "You're very confusing. You're more confusing than even my maths teacher. So are you saying we are underground, but we think we're outside?" she asked him. "Maybe something like that," the old man said as he moved past the girls. "But we cannot all be thinking the same thing at the same time, can we? That's impossible, right?" Anna said, feeling even more confused. The old man just turned around and smiled at the girls. A smile that said, "Maybe." The Watcher told the girls and the old man to follow him along the path he had just taken. Jojo and the girls were amazed to see about 30 different paths that they could have taken, all leading towards the castle. And she had no idea how he knew which one was the correct one. She looked over to the old man and asked him, why is there so many paths leading to this huge castle? The old man looked at her and explained, there is only one real path that leads to the castle, but that path changes every day. And the people who rule this land can decide every morning which path should be the one that will lead to the castle. And what happens if you take the wrong path? Anna asked the old man, looking very anxious. If you take the wrong path, it will lead you to nowhere, and then nowhere is where you will live for eternity, he explained. Oh my God, this place is getting weirder and weirder all the time, Anna said as it began to rain. The old man quickly took the girls' umbrellas, which he had in his backpack, out and handed it to each one of them. Here, use these to keep yourself dry. We don't want to appear before Her Majesty with wet hair and wet clothes, he explained as he handed the girls the umbrellas. The head watcher led the girls along the chosen path, and very soon they were outside a long, high wooden door. The door seemed to go on forever, and the girls just looked in amusement at the size of the door, something they'd never seen before. Then the girls saw the watcher take out from his pouch that he was wearing around his waist a tiny key that looked really way too small for a door so big. But he didn't put the key into any lock because there was no keyhole in the door. It was a solid door. He simply rested his key against the door, and as he did so, the door began to open. The girls, on their tippy toes, tried to look over his shoulder or around the side of him, and as they did, they could see in front of them, behind the door, a long lit room with candles lighting on both sides. The watcher then stood back and allowed the girls and the old man to enter the long corridor. And then, when he himself was in the room, he closed the door behind him. Once again, he took out the small key and laid it against the door. And this time the girls could hear the sound of different locks and bolts shooting across to make sure the door was locked solid. All the girls and the old man were standing there looking around the corridor with all the lights and the thick carpet on the ground. The corridor itself was warm and bright. But Sam looked confused. What's all the black and white garments? She asked, pointing to the ones that were hanging on the wall on brass hooks. You are all strangers in this land, so before you go in front of Her Royal Highness, you must put on these robes. However, further along the corridor, the girls could see other robes, and they were all multicoloured robes hanging on brass hangers as well. Can we not wear one of those? Anna said, pointing up at the colourful ones. No, you must wear these robes. Visitors never wear royal robes, the head watcher explained. What's all this about? Kay asked. Why do we have to wear these robes? I like wearing what I'm wearing. I actually spent a lot of time this morning picking out what I wanted to wear for the day, she explained to the girls. She's right, you know. Why do we have to wear any robes? Why can't we just go in front of your ruler in what we are wearing? Sam asked. You will do as you're told. You must wear these robes to symbolize that you are strangers or uninvited to our lands. If you don't, you will be not going in front of Her Royal Highness now or never, the watcher said loudly. Just do as he says, the old man said, and then added, we need to speak to Her Royal Highness to get you all home. It's a small price to pay. Just put on the robes over your head. It won't be for long. The girls all looked at each other and then decided to put the robes on as instructed. Even the old man was wearing one. When they'd all finished, the head watcher stood in front of them, happy at what he was seeing. Once again, he walked on towards another massively high door at the end of the corridor. But this time, he didn't use a key to open it. He simply knocked on it 4 times with his stick, and he waited for the door to be opened. As the door began to open, he turned around and said to the girls, "You are now just about to meet Her Royal Highness. You will only speak when you are spoken to, and you will do as you're told by Her Royal Highness. Do you all understand this?" he asked the girls. Each of them in turn nodded their heads, showing that they understood exactly what he was saying. Then, as the head watcher turned back towards the open door, a small head appeared. And the head watcher said something to the owner of that head in a voice so low the girl could not make out what was being said. He then turned around and gave the group a smile. "Her Royal Highness will now see you."